Hey, are you struggling to get focused on the right things to do at the right time? Well, join me for a few more minutes here and I will talk to you about how you can shift your focus to stop overwhelm and get more done. All right, so let's get started. We're going to talk today about shifting your focus. All month long, we've been talking about different things that are productivity killers, distractions, perfectionism, and procrastination, all those things that are productivity killers. And focus is one of them. And I'm not just talking about focusing your mind. And we are going to talk about that. So, there is two types of focus in my mind. There is two types of focus, focusing your mind, focusing your efforts. So we're going to talk about both of them briefly. We did talk about focusing your mind a lot last week in my live that I did on distractions. And so I hope that if you want to go see that, that one might give you some, sorry, I'm all thumbs when it comes to talking today. Anyway, I did a whole live on distractions, and it was last week, so you can find it on my YouTube channel if you want to see it, or you can find it in the feed if you're in my Facebook group. All right, so focusing our mind. One of the things that, some of the things that we need to do to focus our mind is limit or eliminate those distractions, right? We talked about this last week, getting exercise to stimulate that frontal lobe, right? Because I probably should have done it. I was jamming this morning, trying to get everything done. And I'm a little bit flustered and unfocused because I was scrambling too late. You'd think that'd get my adrenaline going, but it didn't. Anyway, so also work in short bursts, right? Working in short bursts can help you avoid fatigue. And, like an hour, 90 minutes, something like that. And use those time blocks, use those time blocks. When you have green time, make sure you're doing some of that most important work that really needs your full focus so you can focus and get things done without distractions and without, interruptions, people interrupting you. All right, so focusing your efforts. This is what I really wanted to focus on today. I'm going to focus on focusing your efforts. There's four things that I think that are most important. One is dividing your time, planning your projects, planning your sprints, and then holding yourself accountable. And so we're going to talk about these things. I was jamming to get my slides done. I'm not sure if I got all of them, fancy. So bear with me on that. Okay, dividing your time. So here's the thing. It's like you only have so much time every single week, right? So whether it's 20 hours or 40 hours or whatever, amount of time, I hope you're not putting in more than 40 hours on your business. If you are, you might want to start thinking about building in some efficiencies and starting to outsource if you're working too many hours, because that's exhausting and nobody wants to do that. And why? You're your own boss, right? So you want to build a life that you want, but you have to be realistic about that too, and make sure you're putting in the time for your business, because it really is your livelihood, right? And if it's your livelihood and you really need the income, you got to stay focused on everything that you are trying to accomplish. So in order to do that, I kind of look at your whole time. Remember, we looked at time blocks before, and you can find some of my resources on taking charge of your time in my shop. But anyway, so if you start really dividing your time, you should be looking at something like a 25% of your time breakdown, right? And so you have 25% of it, you're doing those daily, weekly, monthly tasks, marketing and metrics in another, your projects and continuous improvement. And then that last piece really should be left for just administrative things you need to do, any type of overflow if you're running late on something that you had to do that week. And emergencies, things happen. You have tech problems, or, something happens, you lose files, whatever, things happen, right? And so you got to leave a little bit of time for that. And that is really kind of how we break things down in IT shops. I mean, we aren't necessarily doing marketing and metrics, but we're doing data, data analysis. We're doing, those kinds of things that are going to help us improve on what we are doing, so we can make our products better. Okay, so when you're looking at those monthly tasks, you're really looking at things like, the weekly content creation you're doing, or the monthly post scheduling, your monthly content planning, or email newsletters, anything that you're doing repeating during the month, all month long, or you maybe once a month you do it, once a week you do it, whatever. Like I do weekly content every single week, and so I have to set aside time to do my weekly content every week. Whoops. Okay, so those are your weekly tasks, and those are the things that you want to make sure that you're always leaving time for, because here's the thing, it's like once you start getting clients and you've built out your project and all that, you're going to have to squeeze in getting clients as well, right? And so when you start looking at all the things that you're doing, a weekly task, one of those things might be meeting with your clients, right? So make sure that you're leaving that in there and you're allotting that time for those things. But here's the thing is, if you find that your weekly and monthly and daily tasks are taking all of your time that you dedicate to your business, you probably need to start limiting your scope or putting in efficiencies so that you can be faster at it, because you need time for projects. You need time for marketing and data analysis and making sure that you're getting all of those, you're actually responding to your data rather than just throwing spaghetti at the wall and, just doing random things. You can be more strategic when you have that data. So we'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. Okay, and then, marketing and metrics. So data collection, that is huge. And that doesn't mean you have to do it early on. But once you have proven that your offer converts, it's really time to start collecting that data, get some baseline information so that you can respond in a practical manner, and you can get more, those things done that need to get done to improve your marketing efforts, improve your social media efforts, and all of those things. So remember, you can't get everything done all at once. So if you give yourself a year or 2 years, that's one of the reasons why, people mostly think it's like 2 to 3 years of, building out your business and getting it to a place where it's really humming. And so think about that. If you're working 40 hours a week and you're all by yourself, it could take you that long or more. If not, if you're only working 20 hours a week, it might take you even longer. Or if you're really efficient and you're working hard, maybe you got some help, you might be able to do it sooner. But the long haul, right? This is not something that's for this overnight success. It doesn't happen to everybody. And a lot of the people that claim they had overnight success probably worked really hard for the first 3 to 5 years in terms of building out their business and getting everything done and collecting that data and responding to the data. So make sure that you're spending some of your time collecting data, doing data analysis, creating marketing campaigns, creating things that are for the long haul, right? Templates and those kinds of things that will help you with your marketing so that you can be more efficient in the future. Because sometimes when you leave that stuff behind and you're trying to do it after you've already built momentum, it can be a lot harder. Believe me, I know. I wish that somebody would have told me what I know now back 2 years ago, which is allot that time and start working on laying out that foundation of how you're going to do your social media marketing, how you're going to do your email campaigns, how you're going to do marketing campaigns. And then you can lay that foundation down in the next, couple of years, 1 to 3 years, somewhere in there, collecting that data, gathering information, and then responding to that. Okay, and then projects and continuous improvement. Now, this is a biggie. leaving that 1/4 of your time to projects. You got to prioritize those projects. So don't lose sight of that big picture. Part of this time that you're spending as you're doing all the things is prioritizing projects, right? You might have 10, 20 different projects that you're trying to do as you build out your business, but it's up to you as the CEO of your company to create, to know what the priorities are and know what the goals are of your entire company, so that you make sure that you're putting the projects in front of you this week, this sprint, that matter for you right now, that matter for how you're building your everything out. Imagine if you were building a building, a house. Imagine if you were building your own house and you were being your own contractor. Well, nowadays it's really a project manager, right? You're coordinating everything. You have to have the basic foundation in before you can put the floors in. You have to, put in the electricity and the plumbing before you put the walls in and the main flooring in, and you need to get all that stuff in place and all the stairs built out and the shower and all your walls and everything before you put in the finish work. And so all that stuff needs to be coordinated, right? And if you're hiring it out, knowing when to bring those people on is really important. And that's the thing about project prioritizing, is that with one large project, you might have a bunch of little sub projects, right? Like bringing in a plumber or building your funnel, right? So building your funnel is a little bit larger project, but in the sub projects there, you might have creating a lead magnet, building a sales page, creating that thank you page, and creating an email sequence. Those are the main components of a project. And so you want to start breaking things down, right? So first you're looking at the project level. Do I build my front end funnel before I build my back end offer? Do I build my lead magnet before I build my sales page? What things have to be done first in order to get those things done? Or what things might you be doing kind of simultaneously, building them together so everything coordinates and works together? So, as a solopreneur, there's a lot of coordinating that you want to do so that you can stay completely focused on what you need to do right now. And so now once we've prioritized our projects and we've planned our project out, now we got to look at execution. And the way we do execution and implementation is to really start itemizing out not only the components I need to build a lead magnet, but also the actual tasks that are involved in building that lead magnet, for example, or that sales page. There's copy, there's design, there's images, there's, how you're going to deliver it. All those different things come into play, and you don't want to forget any of those, because when you do forget them, and I'm sure you have, you get to the end of your little project and you're like, oh, dang, I forgot to create, the sales page. I spent all this time creating this course or this beautiful lead magnet, and I wanted to be done on this date, and I made it, but I forgot to create the sales page. All right. I've seen that happen a few times. I've done it myself, where you just don't plan, you jump right into execution, and then you end up having regrets because you didn't plan out well enough. You don't know all the things that need to be done. So having that big picture is your job as the CEO. As the CEO, you're prioritizing projects, knowing which ones you're going to do first. Within the project, as the project manager, you're going to plan out what components you're going to work on first. And then during implementation, you're going to figure out what tasks to execute to get those main components done in the order and as you desire. And then lessons learned are a great way for you to really start looking at how you're performing and executing your projects. Looking back, did you forget to plan for that sales page? Did you totally, space out on the emails that you needed to do? What did you forget? What could you do better? How could you hold yourself more accountable? How can you, create the right somehow documentation of some type so that you have a plan and you know what to follow. It doesn't matter if it's a project charter, a full-blown project plan, a Trello board that has all of the information on it. The main thing that you want to know is what the goals are of your project, and what that overview is and how that project fits into the big picture. So then you have admin and overflow. So the admin and overflow is going to be like, you need that extra time cushion, you're doing some record keeping or bookkeeping, or you are dealing with emergencies. So remember that everything doesn't always go smoothly. Sometimes we have tech problems, sometimes we have setbacks, and those things we need to plan a little bit of time to do that. In the IT world, we do that, and and we also have to prioritize those emergencies that come in, right? Because sometimes they are not always emergencies. They might feel like it at the time. Maybe your email's down or you're having some trouble with some specific thing. You want to evaluate if it really is a showstopper or not. Is it a showstopper? Can you not get your work done today because of this problem or this week or whatever? If it isn't a showstopper and you can take your time kind of fixing it, plodding along, then just use this admin overflow time to work on that thing. Don't let it suck up your entire week's worth of time and then, bypass your projects and skip your projects, because those projects are going to be the thing that's going to help you make money, right? Is getting those projects done, getting all that stuff done. Fixing your email is not going to change making money. Getting your projects done, getting that front end funnel done, getting that offer built out, getting that course built, all those things, that's what's going to make you money. And so you don't want to sacrifice that time unless it's absolutely necessary, right? That's what we do in IT. We would never stop our projects in order to fix some sort of tech problem or bug or anything unless it was deemed an emergency. And in the IT world, we usually have decision makers up above. If we're working in the weeds, we have a decision maker up above that's going to tell us whether or not that's an emergency. Or we know, if the entire system is down and our users can't use the system, that's an emergency, right? We are going to stop everything and work on it until we get it fixed. But having some little bug that's really not affecting the outcome of your data, or it's not affecting the user, you or whatever, or your clients, then those kinds of things can be worked on little by little, week after week if must be, but just don't lose sight of those main projects. All right, so planning your projects, that's up front and center. You want to get that high level overview. You want to make sure that you have the goal and the main components or milestones of those projects, including the tasks. So once you get those main components, then you want to really break that down. And in project management, there's a whole process in place for work breakdown, and planning and doing, they even do things like network diagrams so they can map out, what needs to be done first, what's dependent on the other thing. And you may not have to get that complex with your planning, but definitely prioritizing and have an order in which you do things is going to help. Sometimes things may feel like they have the same amount of priority, and that's okay. Maybe you work on them sort of simultaneously. Like, for example, if you have a lead magnet you're creating, you might create all the copy and the basic outline of your lead magnet, then work on your sales page first to get that kind of dialed in before you actually create that whole lead magnet. Or you may decide you want to create the whole lead magnet first, so that you have a clearer sense on where you're going and what you're doing with that lead magnet before you write that sales page. It's completely up to you, and you can be totally flexible on that. But you want to make sure that you never lose sight of your main goals and the main components of this. You don't want to get distracted and go down a rabbit hole. Remember, I talked about like your basic front end funnel, right? If you no upsells, no one-time offers, no anything, just getting that lead magnet to your clients and welcoming them, welcoming your subscribers onto your list and into your world. That's just one project in itself. Now you can start adding, getting out of scope and adding a one-time offer, an upsell, a course, all these things, but you're not finishing that project, right? Your project had 4 components: a lead magnet, a sales page, a thank you page, and an email sequence. And now if you add, a course, well, can you imagine the amount of time that goes into building a course? A lot, right? And so you don't want to derail yourself by increasing the scope of your particular project, because that will only serve to discourage you. Now, if you finish that lead magnet, the sales page, the and all that whole front end funnel, then you can go back and iterate through and now build a course that you add into that funnel, or you create a new funnel for, or something like that, right? So don't let yourself get out of scope or down a rabbit hole of emergencies and things that really are not a priority. It's really those projects that are going to make you money. Remember that. All right. So the big picture and the details, as that CEO, you need to know what that big picture is. As the project manager, which you're playing as well, you need to know what the goal of that project is and how it fits into the big picture. But as the worker bee, now you are going to look at those tasks and how to prioritize and coordinate the tasks that you need to do to complete that project. And you're going to be working on that while you plan your sprints, right? If you have a project that is going to span more than one sprint, then you want to start breaking things down into small milestones so that each sprint you reach a milestone where you have some major component complete. If possible, you have a working component that's actually working and you can start utilizing. And you might not be able to. If you have a lead magnet, you definitely have to have a way to deliver it, right? So you got to have the emails in place. But if you said, okay, this sprint, my whole goal for this project is to finish my lead magnet, is to make it beautiful, make it perfect, perfect, right? Done. You're done. Progress, not perfection. And, and really make it nice. And then next sprint, I'm going to work on my sales page, something like that, right? So if you start really thinking about yourself as the CEO first, always the CEO first, and keeping your eye on the prize, right? Keeping your eye on the main goals that you are trying to achieve, right? So, getting a funnel built is going to be part of, what you want to do if you're, almost no matter what you're doing. You can do it if you're selling products. You can create a funnel for your top selling product, right? And create this beautiful funnel where you upsell to people. And, you don't have to do it for every product, but you can do it for your top selling product so that you have some way to bring people in and really, strut your stuff for them, right? And show your value to them. And using funnels can be a great way to do that. So anyway, but make sure that you're always, always, always focused on the goals that you have for your year, and you're always in alignment with the goals that you have for the next 5 years. All right, so the next thing you want to do is create that Kanban board. And so getting really, really focused now, we're building that Kanban board so that we can stay focused on only the things that we need to do in the next sprint. That's it. Everything else sits on our backlog. It can be prioritized next time we plan sprints. So really look at all the things that you're doing and make sure that you have those 4 categories sort of represented on your Kanban board, right? Because your overflow period, you may not have anything, but you may, you may have some, bookkeeping you need to do or whatever. So, try to make sure that you have those 4 things represented on your Kanban board, because you want to make sure you're always allotting time for those things, because as your business grows, you're going to have to always allot time for those things. So getting kind of used to dividing your time and then zeroing in and focusing on that time. I'm working on my project now. And so if you look at your project Kanban board, you have a whole list of to-do items, right? You have the 4 things, right? The 4 main components. Within those 4 components, you have a bunch of little tasks, right? So now we're going to move those top priority things from the project to-do list onto your desk Kanban if you keep both. I kind of recommend keeping a separate board for your projects that you're working on, because it minimizes the confusion, right? So you can just put in here a task on your main Kanban, on your desk Kanban board, that's just like my project. I'm going to work on my project at some point during this period of time. And then you go to your project, you prioritize the to-do list on your project, and then you take care of those things that are the top priority on that project. And then jump back to your Kanban board for your desk and just move that over because you worked on your project. You worked that allotted time on your project. And so you can see how when you start really thinking in terms of the percentage of your time that you're spending, you can really, you can get a lot done. Are you going to get it all done as fast as if you, just dumped all your time into your project, or dumped all your time into, one thing? Well, maybe not, but actually maybe, because you're pacing yourself in a way that your brain can kind of process what you're doing and, kind of keep sight of that big picture. You're always revisiting that big picture. Every time you start that project, you're revisiting that big picture. So you make sure that you're doing the things that matter for that project. You're keeping it in scope. You're not going down a rabbit hole. You're staying aligned with your goals. All right. So really focus in your time. And that's what I'm talking about here, is not just focusing that brain, it's focusing the time you have and sitting down, knowing that what you're going to do, you're going to sit down and you're going to write an email, period, right? And close all the other browsers. You don't need anything else, right? All right. So that's, I wanted to actually, I'm going to just leave this up here for a second, but I didn't have time to make my last slide, and I really wanted to talk about it more, was, lessons learned and that accountability, holding yourself accountable. That Kanban board, and I'm going to go back to it, that Kanban board, maybe if I can, is going to be your, what you stick with. It's like, if you get overwhelmed, if you feel like you're getting off track, go back to that Kanban board. Start back with the basics. Like, okay, what do I need to do today? What is the most important thing I should do today? You don't even have to look at the whole sprint. Just look at all the things that you put in your sprint. Make sure that they're really aligned with your goals. Anything else, get it out of your face, right? Don't have it in your face. That's what the purpose is of that Kanban board, is it really zeroes you in, and all that noise of your backlog that can really be a distractor for you is out of sight and out of mind, right? Your backlog really should be kept, possibly on another board, on, out of your sight, somewhere else, because when you're focusing in on your sprint, you want to only focus on the things that you said you were going to get done this sprint. And why do we do that? The main reason why we need to do that is because if we get derailed and we don't write it down on our Kanban boards, that can make us get really discouraged. We feel like, God, I worked so hard for the whole entire week and I didn't get anything accomplished. Well, you might have worked really hard, but you weren't focused on the things that you said you were going to do. And so you don't feel like you got anything accomplished. You got derailed. You were, doing something else. Maybe you decided you were going to take on the file management system course, that I created, and finally get your files, set up and coordinated so that they're by department or something. But you went down the rabbit hole and you decided you're going to rename all your files in your whole entire filing system. And remember, I said in that course, don't do that. Just start over, pull in only what you need, and rename it at the time you need it. Because if you're not touching it, it's fine to stay in the archives until you touch it again. You don't have to go through and be a neat freak, because sometimes that's what happens is we tend to be such neat freaks. Like, we love symmetry, right? We love symmetry and organization and all that. And so we get wrapped up in doing that rather than what's really, truly, truly important. And I guarantee you're always going to have file problems. You're probably going to have to start your file system over every now and then, where you archive the old and you start fresh again, just so that you can kind of clean up where you got lazy and those kinds of things, and kind of start fresh. Maybe you have a better system now than you had, a few years ago. All that stuff is going to evolve. And so, remember, your business is a living thing. It's never really a one and done, right? You have all these things you have to build and maintain and continue to improve upon. And then you've got to build new stuff too. So as a solopreneur, there is a lot to do. And so getting yourself focused every sprint on the things that matter is going to help serve you to stay focused on that big picture, that 5-year plan, the 5-year dream, right? Think about where you want to be in 5 years and what you want your typical day to be like. If you really don't want to be in the weeds and you don't want to be doing all the things, then one of the projects that you want to be doing is planning for hiring, so that you make sure that you can get your staff up to speed quickly and not be floundering around just trying to get organized when they show up. So, or, you might plan to hire them and have them help you get organized and then start their jobs, right? So you want to plan accordingly, and remember to always be the CEO, and remember to think about your business from the CEO every day. Every day, I'd like to see you start your day with your CEO cap on and just look at your big picture of all the things that you're trying to do. Remind yourself of what you're trying to accomplish. Remind yourself of the life that you want to have, and then keep working toward it. Okay? All right. So thank you very much for joining. I hope that this was helpful. Please leave any questions, comments, in the comments, and I will be sure to answer them. I'm happy to do so. If you want to get my quick start guide, you can get it at thescrumboss.com/quick start. And I am your host, as I said before, Cheryl Texera. And thank you very much. I will see you guys in the comments. Have a great week.